So I'll start with Shirley Jackson and We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I've heard of this author a while back and I was really tempted to try and read something written by her, and I was torn between this book and The Lottery, the famous Lottery, so I ordered this one, and it's a story about two sisters who live along with their old uncle in an old mansion further away from boring town, as they describe it, and local people don't really like them or don't keep in touch because of what happened in that house in the past, when all the other members of the family got murdered. And it's a story about two sisters who go to incredible lengths trying to sustain the lifestyle they enjoy, the world they live in, and it's absolutely beautiful. It took me just under 2 days to read it, and the language is absolutely stunning, and the story is really touching, and some people said it was haunting and a bit scary, which I didn't think it was. I just really enjoyed the psychological aspects of these young women and the effect that their past had on them and the lengths they wanted to go to protect their lifestyle and their loved ones. So yeah, I'm gonna order some more books by Shirley Jackson because I absolutely adored the writing style, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The next book that I ordered was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I haven't heard of this author before, I'm ashamed to admit. However, recently I discovered, and I've seen really good reviews of her books, especially Rebecca. So I ordered it and it took me just under a week to read it. I've just finished it yesterday and I really enjoyed the story. For those who don't know, it's a story about a young girl, young lady in her early 20s who works as a companion to this American lady, and they go to Monte Carlo and she meets this mysterious, slightly older man, Mr. De Winter, and she falls in love. They get married and they return to England, to Mandalay, to this mansion where Mr. De Winter lives. And then the heroine discovers that Mr. De Winter's wife, who passed away, who died just a year ago, she has a much stronger presence in the house and in other people's memories and in everyday life than the actual girl telling the story. So it's really interesting. I was a bit annoyed reading it. About halfway through I thought, oh, please don't be so predictable and please, stand for yourself. But in the end, the story changed in the way that I hoped it would, although I didn't expect it to. So I was quite pleased to see the development of the main character, and it was a bit of a haunting story. The language was beautiful and I really enjoyed it, and I'll try and read something more by this author. So Rebecca, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The next book that I ordered a couple of days ago, I saw some good reviews online, so I thought it's something, it might be quite an easy read, and it sounded really good, so I ordered the book. It's by Carol Rivka Brunt and it's called Tell the Wolves I'm Home. This is the story of a 14-year-old girl who is misunderstood. She's struggling to fit in, and she gets on really well with her uncle and godfather, a famous painter, but he dies of AIDS, and at his funeral she meets this mysterious stranger who, as she discovers, is missing her uncle as well, and they become really good friends. So I think it's based in New York in probably 1980s or so, and it's a book about sexuality and I think in 1980s, you know, homosexuality and AIDS, they weren't necessarily topics that parents wanted to discuss with their kids. So yeah, it's about this young girl who finds a friend in this older man who was a lover of her uncle. So I'm looking forward to reading it. It looks like I'm gonna enjoy it, and it's about 350 pages long, so it shouldn't take very long to read. The next book I'm gonna show you, I ordered because recently I read a couple of books written by Japanese authors, and I really enjoy their style and the characters. I think in Japanese literature, because of the different culture, the character development is quite different from what you find in Western literature. So, trying to diversify and read a bit more of different stuff, I ordered the book called In the Miso Soup by Ryu Murakami. It is described as a thoughtful novel about loneliness, lack of identity, and cultural and moral corruption. If you like noir, Miso is dark enough for those who want to expand their exposure to Japanese culture beyond sushi, comics, and video games. And I think it starts with this 16, I believe he's maybe not 16, a young Japanese guy who works as a guide for Western tourists in Tokyo. He meets American tourist who wants a guided tour of Tokyo's nightlife, and Kenji, the main character in the book, starts suspecting that this American tourist perhaps wants to go a bit further, and he might be actually having some murderous desires. And although Kenji is far from innocent himself, he unwillingly descends with Frank into an inferno of evil from which only his 16-year-old girlfriend can possibly save him. So it's going to be an interesting read. It's only 180 pages long, so it's a tiny book and it won't take long to read, but I just fancied something different and it sounded really good. Now the next book, I've heard the title before, probably because it's a winner of the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 2011, and it sounded like something I would really enjoy. It's A Visit from the Goon Squad by Jennifer Egan, and it tells the story of the main character who's retired punk rocker, and I believe he's now a music producer or owner of a record label, and one of his employees, and about although they don't know each other, I think it's about their wild youth and life in New York, London, San Francisco in these rock and roll years, in rock and roll era, and it's described as a book that vividly captures the moments where lives interact and where fortunes ebb and flow. The author depicts with elegant prose and often heart-wrenching simplicity the sad consequences for those who couldn't fake it during the wild youth, madness, suicide, or prison, in this captivating, wryly humorous story of temptation and loss. So I think it's a bit of a wild book, and I'm really looking forward to reading it because I do enjoy anything to do with music, and I love music myself, so it sounds like a really good read. So I'll do a review hopefully after I'd finish it, but I'm really looking forward to reading it. Now next book is something different. I've not really seen anyone mentioning this author on Goodreads or YouTube recently, and I'm not entirely sure why, because I've read a couple of her books before and they're absolutely fantastic. It's written by Isabel Allende, who's a Chilean author, and this book is called Of Love and Shadows. And as always, the author explores the life of women in Chile And this particular story is a love story between a journalist and a young photographer who is engaged in military dictatorship. So I think it's about their relationship when soldiers get involved into the story that they're writing about or doing a report on, and how these two different people fall in love more deeply each time they meet, and how military dictatorship affects their relationship and life in Chile in those times. So I'm really looking forward to reading it. I've not read any books by Isabella Allende in quite a while, probably about 10 years, but it sounds really good and her style is stunning, so I'm really looking forward to it. Another book that I ordered thanks to you guys, because I saw loads and loads and loads of videos mentioning it, and I read really good reviews on Goodreads, is by Sarah Waters, and it's Fingersmith. I mean, it's quite a big book, and obviously it's not a new one. You can see it's a second-hand one, but still in pretty good condition. It's about 548 pages long, so it might take a couple of weeks to read. And it's set in London in 1862, and I think the main character is an orphaned girl who meets another orphan who grew up in a gloomy mansion not too many miles away, and some interesting relationships that develop. What persuaded me to buy this book? A lot of reviewers had said that the story just twists and turns and nothing is as you'd expect. So considering that the book has been shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize and the Orange Prize, and the reviews are really, really good, I'm looking forward to reading it, and I hope it's really as good as people say. I mean, the Sarah Waters is described as one of the best storytellers alive today, and stunning reviews, so I'm sure I'm gonna enjoy this book. And the last one that I ordered, and it already arrived, is my first graphic novel ever. It's called Persepolis, and it's written by Marjane Satrapi. Sorry for pronunciation, I can't pronounce it correctly. And it's actually two stories in one. It's the story of a childhood and the story of a return. And it's the memoir of the author growing up in Iran and what the life was like. So it's a bit of a historic fiction, I presume, in a graphic novel. So I mean, I really enjoy the way it's drawn and its simplicity, and I'm sure it's going to be a good read. It's going to be different because I've never read a graphic novel before, but I'm really tempted to try something new, so I'm looking forward to reading it. Thank you for watching my first video, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!